This little roller coaster is called, my ex-fiancée ditched me over text a week before our wedding to chase her dream guy. 3 years later, she pops back up, wanting a second chance, but by then, I was already married, to a woman she absolutely can't stand. But before I get too deep into the chaos, let me rewind and paint you a picture of how it all started. I grew up just outside of Portland, in one of those small, quiet towns where everyone kind of knows your business. My family was your typical middle-class crew, nothing fancy, but solid. My parents both busted their tails to give me a stable life. Dad worked as a mechanical engineer at a manufacturing plant, and Mom taught 3rd grade at the local elementary school. I've got an older sister, she's married now, raising 2 kids over in Minneapolis. We're not the kind of siblings who talk every day or anything, but when the holidays roll around, we catch up just fine. Back in high school, I was pretty middle of the road. Played on the football team, but I wasn't the guy scoring touchdowns or anything like that. Grades were okay, not bad, not stellar. Definitely not the scholarship type. I had a tight group of friends, though most of us have drifted apart since. And when it came to girls, yeah, let's just say I wasn't exactly swimming in attention. My first real relationship started junior year. Lasted about 8 months, right up until she left me for some dude with his own car. Textbook move. After high school, I headed to Oregon State and majored in computer science. That's really where I started figuring things out. I made a solid group of friends, found out I was actually pretty decent at coding, and finally started feeling like I had a path. Still wasn't a ladies' man, but I dated here and there, nothing long-term. I finished with a decent GPA and landed my first job at a small tech company in Portland. I'm not exactly the type of guy who turns heads. I'm 5'10", started thinning up top at 25, thanks for that, Dad, and while I keep in decent shape, I'm no gym rat. Just your average guy who's into video games, sports, and hanging with buddies on the weekend. I drive a 2017 Subaru that I'm still making payments on, and I've got this ridiculous obsession with spicy food and those videos where people power wash disgusting driveways. Don't ask me why, they're just insanely satisfying. By 27, I was living the standard adult routine. Had my own 1-bedroom apartment not far from work, slowly climbing the ranks at a network security company. Finally knocked out my student loans, too. Dating-wise, let's just say the apps were more misses than hits. Mostly first dates that fizzled out. Then came Natalie, Nat. I met her at a tech conference in Reno. My company sent me out there to help run our booth, which was about as thrilling as watching cement dry. She was working for a marketing firm that had a booth across the way from ours. She was 25, and guys, I'm telling you, this girl was way out of my league. Long blonde hair, these bright green eyes, and a smile that could make you forget your own name. She wore those sharp-looking skirts and button-up blouses that were professional but still showed off her curves. The kind of woman who wouldn't have given me a second glance back in college. And yet, somehow, we clicked. During the slow moments at the conference, we'd shoot the breeze across the aisle. She laughed at my lame jokes and actually seemed interested in my nerdy network security job. On the second night, at the vendor happy hour, we talked for hours. Before she left, she gave me her number, and I felt like I was floating the rest of the trip. I kept thinking, is this really happening? Even my friends couldn't believe it. My best buddy Jordan straight up said, "Man, she's like an 8'5" and you're barely a 6 on your best day. What's her game?" But I wasn't listening to logic. I was too caught up in those green eyes. Thing is, Nat knew she was hot, and she used that like a damn superpower. At restaurants, just flashing that smile would land us the best table. Flight attendants gave us free upgrades. Cops let her off with warnings. And me? I was just happy to be the guy standing next to her. It felt like I'd hit the jackpot. What I didn't get back then was how much she thrived on being the center of attention. If we went out and she wasn't the most stunning woman in the room, her whole vibe would shift. Suddenly she'd have a headache or want to bail early. Something would magically be wrong with the food or the venue. And she was always on her phone. At dinner. In bed. Watching movies. Hanging with friends. At first, I chalked it up to her job. She said it was all part of building her brand. Later, I found out she was juggling multiple Instagram accounts. Fitness Nat. Corporate Nat. Foodie Nat. All these perfectly polished versions of herself. One of the first red flags I ignored was how she treated waitstaff. Sweet as pie when everything went smoothly. But if one little thing went sideways, she'd flip. I remember this one time a waitress accidentally spilled some water, didn't even touch Nat, and Nat demanded the manager like it was a crime scene. The poor girl looked like she was gonna cry. Meanwhile, I just sat there, wishing I could crawl under the table. But here's the thing, the physical chemistry was unreal. She was drop-dead gorgeous, and when she was in a good mood, she made me feel like I was the only guy in the world. I know now that was classic manipulation, but back then, I was head over heels. We did the long-distance thing for about 6 months, me in Portland, her in Albuquerque. I'd fly out twice a month, and she'd come visit once. It wasn't easy, but we made it work. Then her company opened a Portland branch and offered her a transfer. She called me, practically buzzing with excitement. I was pumped, too. 2 months later, she packed up and moved in with me. Living together took some getting used to. My old bachelor pad quickly turned into something out of a Pinterest board, throw pillows, framed quotes about hustle and self-love, and plants everywhere. My game room slowly morphed into her office/photo studio. But honestly, I didn't care. I was just glad to have her around. After about a year of living together, more cracks started showing, and once I saw them, I couldn't unsee them. Nat would get weirdly jealous anytime I even mentioned a female coworker. I'm talking irrational, out-of-nowhere jealousy. She started dropping by my office for surprise lunches, which, at first, seemed sweet, until it hit me she was really just checking up on me. And then there was my phone. One night I woke up and caught her going through it while I was asleep. She claimed she was just setting my alarm. Sure. That tracks. We ended up being together for 4 years in total, and 2 years in, I popped the question. I proposed at this ridiculously fancy restaurant, the kind where you look at the bill and need a moment to breathe. It literally cost me a full month's paycheck. Looking back, I think she was a little underwhelmed. She'd been hinting hard about these over-the-top proposal videos that go viral online. But still, she said yes. I even bought her the exact ring she'd been tagging me in for months on Instagram, too. 5 carats of sparkle that set me back 15 grand. I had to take out a loan for it, but I figured, hey, it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing, right? Then came the wedding planning, and I basically handed her my credit card and hoped for the best. She wanted the whole Pinterest-perfect, springtime vineyard wedding just outside Santa Fe. We booked a $30,000 venue, spent 5 grand on her dress, and threw down 10 more for catering and booze. I was bleeding money, going deep into debt, but I told myself this was just the cost of building a future together. 200 guests, half of whom I'd never even met. Custom decor. Hand-lettered signs. Instagrammable everything. My parents, being the practical people they are, gently tried to suggest we scale things back. Nat cried for 2 days. Accused them of never accepting her into the family. And me? Like the spineless moron I was, I sided with Nat. That decision drove a wedge between me and my parents that took literal years to patch up. 8 months of wedding chaos later, we were finally just 1 week away from the big day. Everything was locked in, non-refundable and fully paid for. My college buddies were flying in for the bachelor party. Her bridesmaids had just finished their final fittings. We'd just done the food tasting at the venue and had signed off on the menu. I was nervous about the money, yeah, but I was also relieved. We were so close to just being married and putting all the planning behind us. Nat, though, something seemed off. She was distracted, always off with the wedding planning team. I chalked it up to stress. One of the people on her little wedding squad was Tyler, my buddy from college. He'd moved to Portland about a year before and somehow become one of Nat's closest friends. Tyler was helping with the music playlist, which should have raised alarms. I mean, since when did he give a crap about wedding details? Then, 1 week before the wedding, I wrapped up a conference call and glanced at my phone. I had a message from Nat. Eli, I can't go through with the wedding. I've met someone else. I'm so sorry. I hope one day you'll understand this is for the best. That was it. For years together, $50,000 sunk into this wedding, and she ended it all with a damn text. Took her maybe 10 seconds to type. I called her right away, straight to voicemail. Called again. Same deal. Texted her. Nothing. I called her mom. Still nothing. I drove to our apartment, completely numb, barely noticing I blew through a red light and almost got T-boned. When I got there, she was gone. Half her clothes had vanished. Her makeup. Gone from the bathroom counter. It was like she had just erased herself from my life. I sat on the bed we picked out together at Muji, one we'd actually fought over assembling, and just stared at the wall. Meanwhile, my phone kept blowing up. The caterer was confirming head counts. My cousin was asking what time to grab his tux. My mom wanted to know if Nat had finalized the centerpieces. I couldn't respond to anyone. I couldn't think. I couldn't breathe. Eventually, I called Jordan, my best friend since college. He showed up right away and found me still frozen on the bed, just staring at my screen. "Dude, what happened? You look like somebody died." I handed him my phone with Nat's message still open. He read it once. Then again. His face twisted from confusion to disbelief to pure rage. "She sent you a text. Are you serious right now? What the actual fuck?" That's when it all hit me. I broke down. And I'm not talking sad, single tear down the cheek, I mean full body, ugly sobbing. Jordan just sat beside me, hand on my shoulder, letting me fall apart. "What the hell do I even do now?" I asked, voice shaking. "The wedding's in 7 days. Everyone's flying in. Everything's paid for." "First," Jordan said, calm and steady, "we tell everyone it's off. I'll help. Then we figure out what the hell happened." The next 24 hours were a blur. Jordan took my phone and started calling every vendor to cancel. I handled the family side. Told my mom the wedding wasn't happening. She cried. My dad went into that quiet rage mode I hadn't seen since high school. My sister booked a flight to stay with me, even though she had 2 toddlers at home. The hardest calls were to the friends already en route to Portland. My old roommate Chris was on a layover in Minneapolis when I got a hold of him. "You're kidding, right? She just bailed." "What the hell, man?" My cousin Alex had already landed and picked up a rental car. He came straight to my place from the airport, suitcase still in hand. By that evening, 4 of my closest friends were crashing at my apartment. All of them stunned. All of them pissed. None of us had any clue where Nat had gone. Or who this mystery someone else was. 2 days later, I got my answer. That someone else was Tyler. Yep, that Tyler, my college roommate for 2 years. The guy I told first when I was planning to propose. The one who agreed to be a groomsman. Jordan spotted them at the airport. Luggage in hand. Making out near the international departures gate. He took a photo. Probably thought I needed to know. They were headed to Costa Rica. The exact place Nat and I had planned for our honeymoon. The same trip we'd spent over a year saving for. You know what really punched me in the gut? I checked our joint savings account, the one we'd built together for our honeymoon. Completely drained. 15 grand, just gone. She'd cleaned it out 3 days before she sent that breakup text. That's when the reality really came crashing down on me. All those planning sessions with Tyler suddenly looked a lot different. All the nights she said she was out with her bridesmaids and came home late. The new password on her phone. The way she'd snap or get cagey whenever I asked how her day went. It had been happening right under my nose for months, maybe longer. I went back through everything, our photo albums, Instagram posts, even the little stuff. The signs were everywhere once I knew what to look for. Tyler showing up in the background of group photos. Nat tagging him in comment threads full of inside jokes I never understood. Him just happening to show up at the same bars or events we were at. Coincidence, right? She'd been playing me for a fool, and I'd been too trusting, too blinded, to notice. That night, I snapped. I grabbed all the stuff she'd left behind and started tossing it into trash bags. Deleted every photo of us from my phone. Blocked her on everything. Changed the Netflix password. Yeah, it was petty. But man, it felt good in the moment. Then came the rest of the calls. I had to personally reach out to the 200 people we'd invited to the wedding. Had to listen to the, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," reactions over and over. Had to repeat the same story again and again. No, I had no idea. "Yes, I'm just as shocked as you." Then Nat's parents called. They sounded completely confused, like I had blindsided them. Turns out Nat told them I cheated. That I was the one who pulled the plug on the wedding. She painted herself as the heartbroken victim. Her dad actually threatened me over the phone. Until I sent him a screenshot of the breakup text, and the airport photo of Nat and Tyler that Jordan had taken. After that, dead silence. Just a quiet apology before he hung up. Never heard from them again. The vendors weren't much better. Non-refundable meant exactly what it said. The venue kept the full $30,000. The caterer gave back 10%. The florist didn't return a single cent. The only person who showed even a sliver of empathy was the photographer. He refunded half his fee. I was left with a mountain of debt from a wedding that never happened. My credit cards were maxed out. The very next day, I got an email from Nat. No apology. No explanation. Just a request, asking if I could pack up some sentimental stuff she'd left behind and send it to her parents' house. Like we'd just had a small argument. Like she hadn't dropped a nuke on my entire life. I didn't respond. Then Tyler texted me a few days later. I know you're upset, but when you're calm, I hope you'll understand, you can't control who you fall in love with. I launched my phone across the room so hard, it shattered against the wall. The 6 months that followed. Absolute hell. I dropped 30 pounds without even trying. Couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. My mind was a storm I couldn't shut off. I was useless at work, my focus was shot. Things got so bad, my boss had to put me on a performance improvement plan. Basically a corporate way of saying, pull it together or you're out. Sleeping in our bed wasn't an option, I couldn't even look at it. So I crashed on the couch for weeks. Couldn't break the lease, either. So I was stuck in that apartment, surrounded by ghosts of our relationship. And everywhere I turned, there they were. Nat and Tyler, all over social media. Smiling in Costa Rica. Drinking coconuts in Vietnam. Scuba diving in New Zealand. Using my money to fund their brand new dream life. My friends did what they could. Jordan and Alex basically moved in for a while. Made sure I ate. Forced me to shower. Dragged me out of the apartment when I refused to leave. My sister flew in with her kids, bringing noise and chaos and warmth that I didn't even realize I needed. But eventually, they all had to go back to their lives. And I was left alone, with nothing but silence and my thoughts. Those were the darkest nights. I kept playing our entire relationship over in my head, trying to pinpoint when the shift happened. Wondering what parts were real. Wondering if she ever really loved me. The worst part wasn't losing Nat. It was losing my sense of trust. My confidence. My ability to believe in people. I started seeing a therapist. A few, actually. And they all said the same thing, this isn't about you, it's about her. But when someone tosses you aside like yesterday's leftovers, it's hard not to take it personally. I kept showing up to work, but I was just going through the motions. Numb. Eventually, my boss sat me down. Told me straight up, Eli, everyone here knows what happened. Take some time. Get your head back on. So I did. Took 3 weeks off and moved back in with my parents for a bit. Back in my old childhood bedroom, surrounded by posters from high school and the comfort of familiarity. My mom cooked every one of my favorite meals. My dad didn't press me with questions, just handed me tools and said, come help. We built a new deck. Repainted the garage. Fixed up random stuff around the house. It was physical, repetitive work, and it grounded me. When I returned to Portland, I made a decision, it was time to take my life back. I got a new phone. New number. Started fresh social media accounts. Changed the locks on the apartment. Tossed everything that reminded me of Nat. Repainted the walls. Rearranged the furniture. It wasn't about forgetting. It was about moving forward. Around month 7, Jordan convinced me to give dating another shot. Set up a profile for me on a few apps. I went on a few dates. Total train wrecks. I was so guarded, I'd find reasons to shut things down before they even had a chance to start. By the 4th date, I realized I was sabotaging myself. Deleted the apps. I wasn't ready. What I was ready for was a change of scenery. I started job hunting, anywhere but Portland. Looked at gigs in San Francisco, Nashville, Minneapolis. Eventually landed an offer from a tech company up in Santa Fe. Not quite the fresh start I pictured, but still, a decent pay raise, a brand new role, and way more responsibility. It felt like the kind of challenge I needed to redirect all that emotional energy. So I took it. Found a new place to live. Packed up what little I had left. New apartment. New job. New version of me. A full year after Nat blew up my world, I was finally starting to feel whole again. The new job kept me engaged. I made a few solid work friends. I even picked up rock climbing, something I'd always wanted to try, but Nat had zero interest in. Started eating better. Hit the gym more regularly. And, for the first time in forever, I was actually sleeping through the night. I met Sophie at the climbing gym. She was 32, worked as a physical therapist, and had been through a divorce. No kids. She didn't look like Nat, not by a long shot. She wasn't the kind of woman who turned heads walking into a room. Her wild, curly hair was always doing its own thing, she never wore makeup, and her outfits were all about comfort, not trends. But man, those deep brown eyes. They cut through any BS like a scalpel. And her laugh. One of those contagious ones that just makes you want to smile, even if you're having a crap day. The first time we talked, it was because she flat out told me my climbing form was begging for an injury. Not exactly smooth flirting, but she was right. She offered to show me proper technique, and somehow that turned into grabbing coffee. Coffee turned into dinner a week later. I was ridiculously cautious. On our third date, I laid it all out, the whole Nat situation. Figured she'd bolt. Instead, she opened up about her own past. Her ex had been a high-functioning addict who kept his problems hidden until after they were married. It nearly wrecked her. They'd been divorced 3 years. Everybody's got scars, Eli, she told me, but you decide if they define you. We took it slow. Like molasses in January slow. We didn't kiss until our 6th date. Didn't meet each other's friends until month 3. But being around Sophie was different. There was no drama. No games. No passive-aggressive comments or phone constantly glued to her hand. She was just there. With me. She had her own life, her own place, her own people. She never tried to merge into some couple blog the way Nat had. She didn't blast our relationship all over social media. Didn't ask for validation or fish for compliments about how great we looked together. What she did ask for was honesty. Respect. Grown-up communication. The first time we disagreed on something, it was so minor I can't even remember what it was. I braced for the usual storm. The cold shoulder. The manipulation. But all Sophie said was, I don't agree, and here's why, and we talked it out like adults. It took me months to stop waiting for the hidden catch. To stop bracing for her to suddenly flip, or reveal some secret I didn't see coming. Because with Nat, there was always a catch. After a year, I finally felt ready. I asked Sophie if she wanted to move in together. We found a small rental house, not fancy, but it had a backyard for her dog and was close to both our jobs. Living with her was nothing like my experience with Nat. No power struggles. No aesthetic wars over throw pillows or lighting. No constant photos documenting every damn step. 6 months later, I knew. She was it. Not in that desperate, clingy way I once thought love was supposed to feel, but in a steady, grounded kind of way. We'd gone on this brutal mountain hike, way beyond my fitness level, and at the summit, with my lungs practically screaming, I proposed. No audience. No fancy setup. Just us, the view, and a modest little ring she'd casually mentioned liking months earlier. Her fingers were too swollen from the hike to even try it on, but she said yes anyway. We got married 6 months later, down at the courthouse. Just our families and a couple close friends. No $5,000 dress. No vineyard venue. Sophie wore a white sundress she already owned. We used what would have been honeymoon money as a down payment on a house instead. And for the first time in forever, I could breathe. I felt like I'd finally put the Nat chapter to bed. Or so I thought. 3 years into my marriage with Sophie, guess who decides to show her face? It was a Saturday. I was mowing the lawn, just minding my own business, when a white Range Rover pulled up. With how much Santa Fe's changed, I figured it was some lost rich person looking for the wrong house. Then Nat stepped out. And I swear, the air got heavier. She looked expensive, that's the only way to put it. Designer from head to toe. Perfectly blown out hair. Casual in that very calculated, this took 3 hours kind of way. But her eyes. They had this coldness I didn't remember. Eli, she said, like we'd just seen each other last week. You look good. I shut off the mower. What are you doing here, Nat? She gave me that same flirty smile that used to send my heart into overdrive. Now. It made me sick. I've been thinking about you. About us. I made a huge mistake. I let out a laugh, sharp, bitter. You've been thinking about us. There hasn't been an us in 4 years. Tyler and I broke up, she said, dropping into that soft, vulnerable voice she always used when she wanted something. He wasn't who I thought he was. It was a mistake, Eli. All of it. You and I, we were good together. I just stared at her. Are you serious right now? You emptied out our bank account, ran off with my best friend, and ghosted me a week before our wedding. Now you want to, what? Hit reset. She stepped in closer. I caught a whiff of her perfume, same one she always wore. That familiar scent turned my stomach. I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But we had something real. You can't tell me you never think about me. I'm married, Nat. Happily married. Her eyes flicked to the house. I caught a flicker of something ugly flash across her face before she masked it again. To who? She asked. Anyone I know. Right then, the front door opened. Sophie stepped outside holding a mug of coffee. She was wearing my old college t-shirt and a pair of running shorts, hair up in a messy bun. Just effortlessly beautiful in that real, unpolished kind of way. Eli, who's this? She asked. Nat looked her up and down like she was a stain on her designer boots. Hi, I'm Natalie. Eli and I were engaged. The way she said it, so smug, like Sophie was just keeping her seat warm. Sophie didn't flinch. She walked right over, slipped her arm around my waist, and looked Nat dead in the eye. I know exactly who you are, she said calmly. And I'd really like to know why you're at our house. Nat didn't even look at her. Just kept her eyes locked on me. Can we talk privately? Just for a few minutes. No, I said. Whatever you've got to say, you can say it in front of my wife. Wife, she repeated, with this little condescending scoff. Come on, Eli. This isn't you. She motioned around like she couldn't believe where I'd ended up, me, standing in the front yard of a modest house in the suburbs, married to a woman who wasn't her. Like I was slumming it. You were supposed to marry me, she said. We had plans. A future. No, I said, keeping my voice level. You blew that future up. And now, I need you to leave. You're not welcome here. Her expression changed instantly, the mask slipped right off. You're not serious. Her? You're really choosing her over me. She gestured toward Sophie like she was nothing. Look at her, Eli. Then look at me. You know which one of us you really want. That's when Sophie stepped forward, steady as ever. He already made that choice, she said. 4 years ago. The second you showed him who you really are. Now, leave our property before I call the police. Nat looked stunned, like Sophie had just smacked her across the face. You don't know what we had, she said, turning to me. Tell her, Eli. Tell her how good we were. I just shook my head. There's nothing to talk about, Nat. We're done. Don't come back. As we turned to head inside, she shouted after me. This isn't over, Eli. You'll see. You'll realize what a huge mistake you're making. She'll never make you happy the way I could. We went inside and locked the door behind us. But deep down, I had that gnawing feeling in my gut. Nat never handled rejection well. And when she wanted something, she didn't stop. Unfortunately, I was right. The next 2 weeks were chaos. She launched an all-out campaign to claw her way back into my life. First, it was texts. Dozens of them. When I blocked one number, another popped up. Then came the emails. She somehow got hold of Sophie's work number and started calling the clinic. Some messages were emotional. Please just talk to me, Eli. I know we can fix this. Others tried to guilt me. No one understands you like I do. Then came the threats. You don't know what you're giving up. You'll regret this. And some were completely unhinged. We're soulmates, Eli. You know we are. She's just a rebound. I saved every message but never replied. Sophie and I agreed, engaging would only pour fuel on the fire. Then she upped the ante. She showed up at my office. Made a scene in the lobby. Security had to escort her out. She somehow got my parents' address and mailed them this long, rambling letter about how I was making the biggest mistake of my life and begging them to talk some sense into me. My mom called, worried. She's not well, Mom, I told her. Please, just ignore anything she sends you. It didn't stop there. Nat created fake Instagram accounts to follow our friends and monitor our lives. She'd comment on old photos, making it sound like we were still in touch, even working things out. I had to reach out to my friends one by one to warn them not to respond to anything that came from her. Then came the final straw. She cornered Sophie in a grocery store parking lot. Followed her right to the car. Started ranting about me, our past, how Sophie was just a placeholder, that I would always love her more. When Sophie got home, she looked shaken. Not because she believed any of it, but because Nat felt unstable. Dangerous. She followed me to the car, Eli, she said quietly. Stood there, blocking the door. Told me you were a soulmate and that I was temporary. I think she's having a breakdown. And that was it for me. I'd had enough. It was time to end this for good. I started digging. Turns out, Nat's life had unraveled fast. Tyler had dumped her for someone younger, after blowing through all their money on one bad investment after another. She'd lost her job during a company downsizing and hadn't found steady work since. At 33, she was living back at home with her parents, drowning in credit card debt, clinging to any lifeline she could find. A mutual friend filled me in. "She's been talking about you for months, man," he said. "Calling you the one that got away. Saying she made the worst mistake of her life. She's obsessed." Nat had fixated on me, not because of love, but because I was safe. I had a job. A home. A stable life. And in her mind, Sophie was just something in the way. So I set a trap. I got a burner number and sent her a message, pretending to crack. Told her I'd been thinking about what she said, that maybe she was right about Sophie and me. That I wanted to talk. She jumped on it like a dog on steak. Texted back in seconds, loaded with heart emojis and exclamation marks. Like she'd just hit the jackpot. Sophie was worried, naturally. "You sure about this?" she asked. "She seems off." "That's why I'm doing it in public," I said. "And I'm recording everything. She needs to be stopped." We agreed on a coffee shop downtown. She was already there when I walked in, dressed to impress, like she was heading to a red carpet, not an intervention. She had that smug look on her face, the same one she wore back when she used to get away with everything. I sat across from her and let her talk. About how she'd always known we were meant to be. How leaving me was the biggest mistake of her life. How we could have a fresh start. Then I pulled out my phone and hit record. "So just to be clear," I said, "you left me a week before our wedding, for my best friend. You emptied our savings. Lied to your family, told everyone I cheated. Now Tyler's gone and you want to come back." She looked stunned. Her face twisted. "That's not fair. I made a mistake." "You mean like harassing my wife at her job? Or showing up at my parents' house yesterday?" Her eyes darted around, voice rising. "How did you, or the fake accounts you made to spy on us? Or the multiple numbers you've used to get around being blocked? Or how about following Sophie in a parking lot and threatening her?" "I didn't threaten her," she hissed. "I was just telling her the truth about us. There is no us, Nat. There hasn't been for a long time. I'm married. I'm happy. And I only came here to say this face to face. If you contact me, Sophie, or anyone close to us again, I'm taking this recording and every piece of evidence to the police. And I will file for a restraining order." Her face contorted into something ugly. Not just anger, hate. "You wouldn't dare." She hissed it like a challenge. I leaned in, steady. "Come. Try me." "I've already spoken to a lawyer," I said. "I've got a solid record of harassment, stalking, and threats. If I file, the court's going to order you to stay at least 500 feet away from us, at all times. Violate that. You go to jail. Your move." Her tough act cracked right there. Her voice broke. "You can't do this to me," she said, tears starting to well. "I've got nothing, Eli. Tyler took everything. I'm living with my parents. I lost my job. I need you." I just shook my head. "You should have thought about that before you blew up what we had." And for the first time since she showed up, I saw it, real fear. Not performance. Not manipulation. Just raw panic. "Please," she whispered. "I need help. I don't have anywhere else to go." That's when I reached into my pocket and pulled out an envelope. "Actually," I said, sliding it across the table, "I do have something for you." She opened it slowly, like she was bracing for impact. Inside was a printed donation receipt and a business card. She blinked. What is this?" "That's a receipt for a donation I made in your name, to a women's shelter. One that helps people escape toxic relationships. $15,000. The exact amount you stole from me." Her mouth opened and closed like she couldn't find the words. "And that card? That's for a therapist who specializes in narcissistic personality disorder. I paid for your first 5 sessions." That last part wasn't entirely true. I just picked the card up at a mental health fair at work, but man, the look on her face was worth the stretch. "I don't need the money anymore," I said, standing up. "But you need help. Real help. Not another relationship to drain. Not another safety net to wreck. Get therapy. Get your life together. And stay the hell out of mine." I walked out, didn't look back. She called out my name one last time. Her voice cracked. "Eli, please. I'm sorry. I'll do anything." But I didn't stop. I didn't answer. I got in my car, started the engine, and just sat there for a second, hands trembling, not from fear, but from relief. I'd finally said what I'd been holding in for years. I'd taken my power back. As I pulled away from the curb, I called Sophie. "It's done," I told her. "I don't think she'll be bothering us again." When I got home, Sophie was already outside waiting on the porch. She wrapped her arms around me, didn't say anything, just held on tight. We stood there for a long time, breathing each other in. Later that night, Nat sent one last message. "I'm sorry for everything. You won't hear from me again." And surprisingly, we didn't. She disappeared from social media the next day. Deleted every account. A mutual friend told me she moved back to Albuquerque to live with her sister. Apparently, she had some kind of breakdown after our meeting, and for once, finally started getting the help she needed. I had restraining order paperwork ready to go. My lawyer had everything lined up. But we never had to file. Nat was out of our lives. Hopefully for good. Now, Sophie and I are expecting our first child, a little girl. Life is quiet. Peaceful. Good. Sometimes I think about how close I came to marrying Nat, and it feels like remembering a bullet that missed me by inches. If I had gone through with it, I'd probably still be in that apartment, emotionally drained, deep in debt, wondering who she was texting behind my back. Instead, I'm married to someone who values me. Who doesn't just love me when it's easy or flattering, but even in the messy, difficult moments. Someone who tackles life with me as a teammate, not someone playing me like a puppet behind a pretty smile. Someone real. Every once in a while, I still have a nightmare about Nat. Usually it's the same dream. I'm back in that old apartment, staring at my phone, reading that breakup text again like it just happened. But when I wake up, I roll over, and Sophie is there. And the relief I feel in that moment is hard to put into words. Oh, and the donation. That part was real. $15,000. Figured the money was long gone anyway, might as well put it towards something that actually helps people. The shelter sent a thank you letter, even shared how they plan to use the funds to help women get out of abusive homes, start fresh, rebuild. That felt like the perfect ending to that chapter. Turning something awful into something meaningful. So yeah. That's my story. The ex who came crawling back, and found out the hard way that some bridges, once burned, don't just smolder. They turn to ash and blow away in the wind. If you're reading this and going through something similar, pay attention to the red flags. Don't ignore your gut. And remember, you deserve someone who chooses you every single day. Without games. Without ultimatums. Without manipulation. Just real love. The kind that stays.